What up? Welcome back to another very special episode of Select Your Character, created and hosted by yours truly. Good to be back. So good to see you guys. This is a very special episode because a little while ago I hit 300 subscribers thanks to y'all, and I promised that when I did, I would make a huge video talking about all the other Kongs in the Donkey Kong Country games. So, since I don't want to break my promise, that's exactly what I'm going to do today. This is my favorite episode I've ever done so far of this series. I worked so hard on it. I'm so insanely proud of it. There's 10 characters in it. It is super long. I really hope you guys enjoy it. Real quick before I get started, Kongs that I don't cover in this video, the boss fight characters from Jungle Beat, I literally don't know who those guys are, so I'm not talking about them. They're also not part of the Kong family, so like they're literally evil, right? So yeah, scratch those random boss fights, and also scratch like any characters that I've never been in games. So like no random magazine characters like Fedora Kong or Uncle Kong. There's no Uncle Kong in this video. I'm sorry to all the Uncle Kong fans out there. There's also no Redneck Kong because he never made it out of a prototype and he scares the shit out of me. But yeah, every other Kong will be talked about in this video, so I really hope you guys enjoy it. We're already at like close to 350 subscribers by now. There's definitely going to be a 400 subscriber goal. I just got to think of it. But until then, enjoy this video about all the Kongs. Peace. Alright, so there are a lot of Kongs to get through, so before we get started, I want to make a few things clear. This is Donkey Kong. This is also Donkey Kong. This is also Donkey Kong. Some people think that this Donkey Kong is this Donkey Kong, and that this Donkey Kong is this Donkey Kong, or perhaps even the son of this Donkey Kong. Do you see how stupid this shit sounds? That being said, for the remainder of this video, this is Donkey Kong, this is Donkey Kong Jr., and this is Cranky Kong. End of story. Cry about it. Speaking of Cranky Kong, Cranky Kong is an extremely old man Kong. I'm pretty sure he's the oldest of the Kongs, and he first appeared in Donkey Kong Country 1, arguably. To this day, Cranky still is a pretty popular character, so he really doesn't need any introduction. He's always grouchy and mad at you for something. He's never pleased with his son, or grandson, depending on how you look at it. Personally, I think it's his son. I mean, the movie literally said it. Why are you guys still friggin' talking about this? He kind of reminds me of that old senile grandpa who just bitches about everything and always tells you how stuff was so much better back in his day, but then proceeds to tell you that he had to walk 2 miles in a snowstorm to school every day. Cranky Kong usually acts as an NPC that provides tips and tricks to help you beat the game, but eventually in 2014, Cranky Kong would have his first playable appearance in Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. I personally love Cranky Kong. I think he's hilarious, and I'm really glad that there's a full-on animatronic of him at the new Super Nintendo World at Universal Studios. He was honestly one of my favorite characters in the new Super Mario Bros. Movie. He was voiced by Fred Armisen. It was hilarious. That being said, I give Cranky Kong 5 bananas out of 5. Next! Okay, so Dixie Kong is the girlfriend of Diddy Kong, and she was first introduced in Donkey Kong Country 2: Diddy's Conquest. In this game, Donkey Kong himself actually gets captured by Captain K. Rool, and it's up to Diddy Kong and Dixie Kong to save him. The cool thing about Dixie is that she controls a little different from Diddy. They both have their own unique set of moves. Diddy's exactly the same as he was in the first Donkey Kong Country game, but Dixie is more floaty, and she even has this helicopter hair thing that makes her float midair. As somebody who's played through Donkey Kong Country 2, I can say that it is hard as balls. But having Dixie Kong be able to float around definitely helps. Dixie Kong would eventually get her own game with Donkey Kong Country 3: Dixie Kong's Double Trouble, where she would be paired up with... we'll get there. Unfortunately, Dixie wouldn't make her return for Donkey Kong 64 and would honestly go on a hiatus for a while, along with the entirety of the Donkey Kong Country franchise. However, much like Cranky Kong in 2014, Nintendo brought Dixie Kong back into the limelight in Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Dixie was finally a playable character again, with her helicopter hair, spunky animations, and rockin' attitude. Nowadays, Dixie Kong doesn't really make as many appearances as I think she should. I mean, she was in the Mario Kart Tour app, but other than that, that's about it, and literally everybody was in that game. She's featured in some promo art and merchandise for the new Donkey Kong Country theme park at Universal, but not nearly as much as DK and Diddy are. Hopefully soon we'll get a new era of Donkey Kong, and Dixie Kong will become one of Nintendo's leading ladies once again, because we all know if anyone deserves a second chance, it's Dixie. I give her 4 bananas out of 5 because I wish she was more developed. And speaking of underappreciated Kongs, oh yeah, now we're talking. This dude is awesome. Swanky Kong is a radical surfer Kong who made his first appearance in Donkey Kong Country 1, where he owned Funky's Flights, a plane rental that would take you from world to world. This dude was so freaking radical that he pretty much made an appearance in every other Donkey Kong game from that point on. Donkey Kong Country 3, he's got a boat. Donkey Kong 64, he's a weapons dealer. Wait, what? Donkey Kong actually has a huge fan base and is really popular amongst hardcore and casual gamers alike. This is likely due to his infamous appearance in Mario Kart Wii as one of the most popular characters. Monkey also appeared as one of the last DLC characters in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and as an easy mode in the Nintendo Switch version of Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Personally, I love this dude. He's been my recent Mario Kart main, and for that I give Funky Kong 5 out of 5 bananas. Nowadays, I mean, I guess he's popular. The gift shop in the Donkey Kong theme park is based off of his flight rental store, and I mean, he has his own Lego set, but other than that, not really much going on recently with Funky Kong. Probably because he's a laid-back dude who would rather catch waves and talk to ladies rather than go on adventures. Speaking of ladies? So this is Candy Kong. She's really tall and ugly. And I think it's because she's supposed to be not ugly. So Candy Kong is Donkey Kong's love interest, so pretty much her design looks like if Barbie and Donkey Kong had a baby, which is not something I would like to think about at all. I mean, after failing to kidnap Pauline so many times, I guess he just decided to go for somebody who's more in his own league, and yeah, I really don't know what the thought process was here. So Candy actually also appeared in the first Donkey Kong Country game, and she was actually the host of Candy's Save Point, where you would save your game. She would then make a couple more NPC appearances here and there, like in Donkey Kong 64, where she ran the music shop, or Donkey Kong Barrel Blast, which was probably her last important appearance. Ever since the Wii era, Candy Kong has pretty much faded out of existence, probably because she makes a lot of people uncomfortable. But who knows, with a new era of Donkey Kong hopefully on the horizon, maybe Candy Kong will get a redesign and become a more prominent character, but personally, if you ask me, I think Dixie Kong and Pauline are 10 times better female characters than Candy Kong. 1.5 bananas out of 5. Speaking of forgettable love interests, so we've now moved on to the NPCs that first appeared in Donkey Kong Country 2. You see, in the last game, to save your progress, you have to go talk to Candy Kong, who, yeah. So just imagine how funny it was when in the second game, they replaced her with an old lady. So Wrinkly Kong is an old lady Kong who's actually Cranky Kong's wife, and therefore possibly Donkey Kong's mom? She acts as the most knowledgeable Kong on the island, being the head of their education system, the Kong College. Supposedly King K. Rool was a former student of Wrinkly Kong, so I don't know what she did to him that made him turn this crazy. Alright, now here's the crazy part. Wrinkly Kong would return as an NPC in Donkey Kong 64, but she's not the same as she always was. She's dead. Yeah, dude, this is actually really dark. For some reason, the people at Rare decided to kill off Wrinkly Kong and turn her into a ghost for this game. You know what, the more I think about it, this character's actually kinda hilarious. Maybe they should bring her back. Until then, she'll probably just keep haunting Cranky in his nightmares, and just for that, 3 out of 5 bananas. Anyways, let's go gambling! Step right up and press your luck, because this Kong is ready to This is Swanky Kong. He was first introduced in Donkey Kong Country 2, in which he was the host of his own game show called Swanky's Bonus Bonanza. This dude has shiny teeth, he wears a suit, he is clean! However though, in Donkey Kong Country 3, he would no longer have his own game show, but instead just run a few carnival games. Another sad tale of a washed-up celebrity game show host. There's not really a whole lot to say about Swanky Kong other than he made a tiny cameo in the Mario movie in which he may have died, but other than that, not really anything important. Might be a gambling addict, I don't know. 1.5 bananas out of 5. Speaking of characters with little to no personality, this thing is Kiddy Kong. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are extremely uncomfortable right now. You may even feel endangered, so allow me to clear a few things up to ease your stress. Kiddy Kong is not real. Kiddy Kong cannot hurt you. So Kiddy Kong is this giant baby cousin of Dixie Kong, and he first appeared in Donkey Kong Country 3, Dixie Kong's Double Trouble, as the partner character to Dixie. Alright, maybe I'm being a little hard on this character, maybe I'm a little biased, because if anything I feel like DK and Dixie should have just teamed up in this third game to save Diddy, that would have been awesome. But genuinely, I just can't find a whole lot of redeeming qualities about this dude. Literally from the start of the game, he's given to you as a burden. You literally have to babysit him the whole time. To be fair though, I guess it was nice of him to help Dixie out on her adventure, with the term help being used very loosely. I mean, he can skip over water, that's kinda cool, I guess. In Japan, his name is Dinky Kong. Okay. He just should have been Donkey Kong. I actually haven't finished Donkey Kong Country 3 because I didn't like it as much as the first two, so I'm extremely biased, but when it comes to this idea of a baby Kong, I think we should just bring back Donkey Kong Jr. I'm giving Kiddy Kong 1.5 bananas out of 5. Alright, now it's time to get to some of the coolest Kongs of the bunch. Oh yeah! I'm of course talking about the DK crew from Donkey Kong 64. Cue the song, baby! This game, while as a mixed bag of reviews, does have a sense of character and charm that is undeniable compared to the other Donkey Kong games. This game literally feels like an interactive cartoon, and that is majorly due in part thanks to the 3 new playable Kong characters we're introduced to. Speaking of which... Alright, so this is Tiny Kong, a small female Kong who's actually the younger sister of Dixie. Younger sister. Remember that. Much like her older sister, Tiny Kong was able to float through the air using her hair as a sort of helicopter, but instead of a single ponytail, Tiny had 2 pigtails. She was also able to shrink in size and get into smaller areas of the game in order to reach a decent amount of the 6 trillion collectibles that were in the game. She would pretty much be unheard from for a good while after her first appearance, until she would make a few spin-off appearances in Mario Baseball and DK Barrel Blast, where she now looks like... Ew, why? Why do they keep doing this? I mean, what the hell? She's literally supposed to be the younger sister of Dixie Kong. Make it make sense! As far as I'm concerned, this version of Tiny Kong has never existed, and I'm erasing it from my memory. Tiny Kong is honestly a pretty cool character in my opinion, with some unique abilities. However, she does suffer from the fact that it would have been cool to see Dixie Kong be playable in DK64, but I won't let that affect my final score too much. 2.5 purple bananas out of 5. Next! Okay, so this is Lanky Kong. And I know what you're thinking, what in the shrimp fried fuck am I looking at? So apparently Lanky is not related to any of the other Kongs, which you could honestly tell just by looking at him. Dude is a clown. He's supposedly a non-blood distant cousin of the family, and he's modeled after an orangutan, which immediately gives Lanky some points, because orangutans are some of the greatest creatures on the planet. So Lanky Kong is most notable for his long arms that give him some insane range when you play as him in-game, hence his name, Lanky. He also has this weird ability to inflate himself and then deflate himself, I guess. I don't know, this is kind of gross, honestly. But this character is not supposed to be taken seriously. He's literally the Waluigi of the Kong family, after all. He's got a great design, a few unique abilities, and he even plays the trombone. Some hardcore Donkey Kong fans theorize that Lanky Kong is actually a relative of the Mankey Kongs. Who are the Mankey Kongs? I can't with these designs, bro. The Mankey Kongs were an enemy type in the first Donkey Kong Country game. They were these mangy orangutan creatures that would throw barrels at you, and they were described as rejected members of the Kong Society. Bro, there is so much dark lore that you could probably get from these games that we have not tapped into yet. It's insane. I really hope that both Mankey and Lanky one day make a return in the future Donkey Kong games. I'm gonna give Lanky Kong 4 out of 5 bananas, and Mankey Kong just gives me nightmares. Moving on. Alright, so we finally reached the last Kong on our list, and quite honestly, this is an appropriate bookend considering this character actually recently made a cameo appearance in the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Chunky Kong is the final playable Kong in Donkey Kong 64 and is actually the older brother of Kiddy Kong, making him the cousin of Dixie and Tiny. Yeah, if you didn't already know, this family tree gets extremely confusing, and that's why I refuse to cover it. So Chunky Kong fits the classic character trope of the big, dopey giant who's actually extremely sensitive on the inside. Think Wreck-It Ralph meets Patrick Star with a sprinkle of 90s drip in there, complete with the backwards hat and the sick vest. So like I said, Chunky's sort of a gentle giant, but nonetheless he's still a giant. No, I mean he's literally able to grow into a giant and become massive. He's also able to lift up giant boulders and throw them, and that's pretty much it. There's not a whole lot to say about any of these 3 Kongs in general, honestly. Like I said, Chunky would make a cameo appearance in the Super Mario Bros. Movie alongside Diddy and Dixie, but other than that, he's pretty much irrelevant. Hopefully now with the Nintendo Switch 2 on its way, we'll get a new Donkey Kong game to reintroduce all these forgotten characters, maybe even with a new coat of paint. I would love to see a 3D Donkey Kong adventure where you travel to different themed islands and each island has an NPC Kong for you to talk to. Imagine like a haunted island with Ghost Wrinkly Kong or like a tropical fruit island with Lanky Kong. Oh my god, an entire casino themed island hosted by Swanky Kong. That would be amazing. Nintendo, you can hire me right now if you'd like. You should. You need to hire me. That being said, hopefully it's only a matter of time before we see these characters make their triumphant return on the Nintendo Switch 2, but honestly, if not, that doesn't mean the end for these characters. Seth Rogen has expressed interest in playing Donkey Kong in his very own spin-off movie, and can I just say, if we ever got a Donkey Kong Country movie with any of these characters in it, I would literally be able to die happy. There's also that new Donkey Kong Country expansion to the Super Nintendo World theme park in Universal Studios Japan, but from what I've seen recently, they're not even representing Dixie Kong that much, let alone Lanky. But who knows, Nintendo's full of surprises. Hopefully someday soon we'll get a new Donkey Kong game, and therefore we can be reintroduced to the DK crew. In the meantime, I'm gonna go play Tropical Freeze on my Nintendo Switch. Again.